Hey everybody, happy Thursday and welcome to Tech Time with Tammy. Today's is going to be based on flash times with your reducers and flash times with your hardeners, why to choose what temperature, what works best on the size of your project, what works best in your temperature and your climate, and that's kind of what we're going to tackle in less than 10 minutes. So this is going to be a little bit longer one, so hopefully, you can learn a little bit here that's going to be helpful for you on your upcoming projects. Okay, fast reducer or fast hardener, in my opinion, is never the best option to choose for almost anything. If you're doing very small parts, I could see you pulling for a fast hardener or a fast reducer. I could see that. But I still believe that even with the small parts, you would just use a faster clear and you could still get away with your medium hardener or medium reducer, and you wouldn't have any of the negatives that fast tends to bring. Anytime you make paint go faster than what it's designed to do, meaning the technology is not there for that. If you're using like a flash clear, it's meant to be fast. If you're using a 1 hour clear, it's meant to be fast. But anytime you're taking a slow clear or like an all over, like say the Euro clear, and you put a fast hardener into it, I just don't believe it's the proper mix for you to get the results that you're looking for. If you're using the Euro clear, typically you're doing a little bit larger things, or even if you're doing a motorcycle, I would never personally reach for a fast option. Now, the misnomer is a lot of people want to reach for fast because they think it's going to get them to where it cures faster. That does not occur. Now, can you add like accelerators into things, and does adding accelerator help speed up that process, get it to where it doesn't fingerprint as quickly, get it to where it's dust free much faster? It absolutely does. But the cure is not going to be different. The cure is still going to be the 12-hour cure. So you still have, it's not getting you to buff it faster, it's not getting you to repaint it faster, but it's always giving you the negatives. So again, you're never going to see me recommend fast. We do have those options. They're there for people that want them. There are different times where I see you guys get fast and I see your climate and I see everything else you're buying. And I knew in number one, it had to be a mistake or you just didn't know. And I will automatically swap you out for something else. I make sure that is done. I make sure, and I've taught and trained other people to make sure, depending on where you live and what you've bought, to make sure that you just don't get fast. We always basically switch that out. So anyways, if you're doing a complete and it's going to be, say, 70s upwards of 85, that would be a good range for medium. But you have to realize that it also is contingent on the size of the project that you're doing. If you're doing motorcycle tins, you could get away with medium and not have any issues with just using medium, say when it's 85 degrees. But if you're going to paint a semi truck or you're going to paint a large, pickup truck and it's 85 degrees and you have a medium, you are going to struggle with that medium. It's not going to want to melt in on each coat. You're going to have the possibility of solvent pop when you would not normally have it. It's going to be flashing way too quickly for you to keep it wet. So it's going to be forcing you to over apply to keep it wet, which will then force you to get runs and or sags because you're over applying it to justify for the fact that it's flashing so quickly that you're hammering it on more, trying to force it to flow, and then all the negatives are going to roll after you do that. So you should always go for slow if you're doing a large job and your temperatures are well over, say, 75 degrees. There are people that you will talk to that are of the belief that they just always use slow. I have guys, no matter where they live, no matter what time of the year, they always go with slow. I don't have an issue with that because I know that that won't pose other problems when they typically also have controlled environments. Now, not all of them are spraying in controlled booths, but a lot of them have shops where the shops are controlled and they can control that when they're spraying, whether that be a garage, whether that be their own shop or whatever it may be, they have the means of controlling that. So in that case, I would say that that's okay, that you could always just go with slow in that aspect. The difference would be if you're doing a small job and it's 60, 65 degrees, which I wouldn't want you painting in, but some of you don't have a choice, and you were to pick a slow, it's going to flash so slow for you that it poses risks of like runs and things like that you would not normally have if you had just used a medium. So that would be the reason that you would use a medium versus using a fast or versus using a slow. So temperature, size of the job that you're actually doing plays a huge role. In my opinion, probably one of the largest roles is the size of the substrate you're painting and what your temperatures are. You have to take all of that into consideration. So my personal recommendation is if it's above 70, so like say 70, 75 degrees, and you're doing a large complete, you would go with slow. If you're just doing like a smaller car, you're doing motorcycle stuff, you're doing maybe like a smaller truck or whatever that may be, You could still get away with medium on a complete, especially with like the Euro clear. With the 357-66, it is a slower natured clear. So therefore, using a medium hardener is going to play well with it, even on a larger complete when it starts getting warm, because it flows so well always just on its own with the package of the solvents that are in the clear. So with it just being slower natured, it allows, even if you're using a faster hardener, to function better. So when you're going with slow, I would personally do slows when it's like 80 plus. And in my opinion, no matter what you're painting, if it's 80 plus, I would go with slow. And I don't think you can ever go wrong with that. It's just going to be better all the way around. You're not going to be fighting it. You're not going to be over applying it. You're not going to be fighting the wet edge. You're not going to be fighting all of the issues that come when you're trying to accelerate something too quickly and you're trying to overcome for that. Also realize that the same thing matters when you have a lot of airflow. So if you have a lot of airflow in your booth, you're also going to want to go with slower products because it's going to want it to artificially flash too quickly, and going with a slower flashing solvent and a slower flashing activator is going to allow you to overcome if you have too much air that's kicking it too quickly. So just a little tip there. When it comes to solvents as well, you have fast, medium, slow, and then you have extra slow with us, and then you also have like a retarder option. So the opposite of that, the polar opposite of that would be like an accelerator. So you have an accelerator that will help things flash faster. An accelerator will actually help cure slightly faster, but not full. You don't achieve full cure any faster. Just help it get out of dust, fingerprints, more dry to the touch if you're using that in a very cold climate. Like when you shouldn't be painting, that would help you there. But when you're using fast, people tend to think it's going to cure faster. And it's not going to cure faster. And that's probably one of the biggest reasons that somebody wants to get a fast from me when they shouldn't even be getting it, because in their head, they think, oh, well, if I'm just using a fast hardener, it's going to get me through faster. I had a guy the other day, it was literally 90 some degrees. And he's like, well, I just want to use fast because if I use fast, the whole job's going to be done faster. And I was like, no, it won't. It won't cure faster. And then you're going to be fighting it the entire time in your temperatures. You know, the flash point of that solvent is not designed to be in 95 degrees. It's designed to be in the 60s. It's not designed for this. So it's not going to be able to do what you want it to do. And you're going to make it not cure properly. You're going to self-induce your own paint problems by doing that. It's never smart to do that. I always tell people it's always smarter to go slower than faster. I feel about that with clear, and I feel about that with reducer and with hardener. I know that, a lot of guys like fast clears, but with paint doesn't really always like to go faster. Paint just likes to just do its thing the way it's designed. And anytime you try to accelerate that process, you pose more problems. And that's where I am when it comes to anything fast. So it won't cure faster. So even with you going with like a medium versus a slow, the medium's not going to cure faster. It's just going to flash differently. It's going to flash slightly faster. Now, a big thing that people think is that the flash is a considerable amount of time. It's not. The difference between even fast, medium, and slow is literally minutes. That's it. It might tack on another minute. It might tack on a second minute, but it's not elongating your time the way you think it is in a mass amount. It's just very minute time frames. So I have some guys where sometimes they had bought the product, they didn't paint it when they thought they were going to paint it. They were painting it later. It's warmer than they anticipated, but they only have a medium and they don't have a slow, and they absolutely don't think they can do the job. And I'm like, well, you can depending on the size. You also can depending on how quick you are. You can always flash a little faster than a TDS says if your conditions allow for it. So again, you need to just do different things to see how that's going to work. But also, when you're using solvents, you want to do things where you go, in my opinion, you don't use a fast solvent. You don't want to do that. Even before when I was saying don't do hardeners, I don't like fast solvents either. They flash too quickly for what most people are doing, and you don't necessarily have the experience for it. So it's just, to me, it's not a good idea. A standard medium reducer always works in almost every single condition other than when it starts getting really hot. Then you just want to go with slow or with extra slow, or you could also take like a retarder and you could mix the retarder in to slow the entire process down. So let's say that 66 clear with a slow hardener still isn't slow enough for you and you want to do a reduction. You can add the retarder in at a certain mix to help slow that down even faster. Again, it won't cure differently, it will just flash differently. So I hope that kind of gives you a good idea on the differences between what flashing is and what curing is. The curing is going to happen no matter at the very end, depending on what the tech sheet says. It won't matter really if you used medium fast, slow, doesn't matter. It's just what the flash is at the time that you're using it. So in my opinion, skip medium, skip fast, stick with medium or slow if it warrants that. Hope this was helpful. Have a good night. RevolveAutoPaint.com for all of your paint needs. And I'll be back again tomorrow.